these 30-minute. If I sleep for 30 minutes, I'm gone for the next couple hours. Like I just that's a skill.
You have to build up to that. You know how you get to that point? Set a timer for 10 minutes and try to go to bed for 10 minutes. And then I would increase it to 12. I found that 12 minutes is the max that I can sleep without falling so deep asleep that I lose it. So I'll do like 12-minute naps every 2 hours, and you can get through a whole day like that.
But is it even effective for 10 minutes? Like it's
well, I usually get about an hour and a half to 2 hours of like alertness from it.
Wow. That's interesting.
So you can train yourself to do that. I don't recommend that. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not recommending everybody do that, but there's times in your life where you need to. And it also depends on what you're doing when you're awake. Like you're running a business. There's something you're incredibly passionate about, and that level of like focus, and especially combined with creativity, it will push you. You can do it for quite a while when you are working on something that you love.
Right. It's not the typical work 9 to 5 schedules at that point.
No, you're happy to do it a lot of times.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. I'm going to be leaving at 7:45. I got to get out of here because I'm taking my girlfriend to watch Oppenheimer. Why'd you smile, Vitaly? That's not.
Does your dad know that you're calling mom, that you're dating mom?
I was about to make the mom joke.
I do have to go watch Oppenheimer at 7:45, so I'll leave the stream on and then I'll just exit it from my phone for those last 15 minutes.
Am I the only one that movie just does not sound like super appealing? Like,
look, we'll see today. I'm gonna go watch it and we'll see.
I love Christopher Nolan and I love his visionary takes, but this is like a true story of something that happened in a time when like the technology and it wasn't as fantastical as then. So
I'm only watching this because of Nolan. If this was any other director, I would not give a flying, but it's Nolan. So I'm giving it a shot.
Right.
And we'll see.
Well, I heard the visuals were really great. So I'd imagine that they are. And I'm a big proponent. I'm a big fan of movies. Like good movies should all be 3 hours. I think if they did 3 hours and made less movies, they would make better movies. All right, Greg.
So,
all right, that's a pretty.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I think I'm doing a lot of research on because the whole Disney DD that I'm doing. I'm seeing a lot of stuff around streaming, around the SAG actors, and all the stuff around how streaming has basically kind of like flipped the script a little bit on how monetization happens, not just for like the streamers themselves, but also for the actors. Because like before, when you had like a syndicated TV show that ran like 26 episodes, there was like this long tail of employment where you're getting these checks and then you're getting all these residual checks from like the network TV stations. And like I had no idea that all that stuff with streaming was completely gone. Right. So right now with streaming you're getting barely any residual checks. Like there was like this thing with the Orange is the New Black, like the actors in that, it's like one of the most popular shows to ever come out on Netflix. And the residual checks that these guys get is like nothing, like $20. It was kind of crazy to see considering how much value was extracted by Netflix when it originally came out. But then I thought to myself, I was like, wait a second, like back in the day, the rewatchability of shows was what gave you those residual checks. Right now, there's so much content being pumped every single day. Like every time you log on to Netflix, there's new stuff on there. There's new content. So like, what makes me want to go and rewatch an old series of something? Like, no.
Well, Chris, I think you're missing the point. So if nobody watches, if they don't keep airing it, then they don't get the residuals. It's when it airs and people watch. No, I agree. Right. So a piece of content, if it does get a lot of those people who acted in it and created it, they're not getting paid again because Netflix made a great deal with all of these creatives. And that should change because otherwise, honestly, I'm a creative. Carlos is a creative. Well, we can't survive without some of these things that happen, Yeah.
But that's why the model back in the day, you got a residual check because if they aired a movie on TV, they were able to charge commercial time for every time it aired, and the money would come from that. But on Netflix, you've already paid for the subscription. They don't care what you're watching on the platform, and if you watch, 1 or 2 episodes of this and 1 or 2 episodes of that, they don't care. So it's not like they can say, well, we got extra revenue because you watched this movie. Vitaly and I have a mutual friend. I won't say his name on the show, but he was a child actor and he still collects checks for movies that he made. Now, granted, now it's like 20. No, actually, at this point now it's like probably 30 something years ago. So they're very small, but He was on a few TV shows and he was in a couple of movies. And even for movies that he didn't make it into, that he was simply in the movie where they cut his scene out at the last minute, he still got residual checks from it because that movie ended up being, you know, it would air on TV and then it went into one of those buckets like a Time Warner Classics or whatever it was. That model's gone. But what they should do is like what they do in my business is that they pay you more money up front.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. I get paid more money up front, but I get zero residuals.
Well, one of the chief complaints that I saw a lot of the actors make was that, you know, even if let's say you got paid really good money up front, the life of an actor is very inconsistent when it comes to the follow-up jobs. Like there's no guarantee that you'll be working like another 6 months or 9 months. And sometimes they have you like sign these deals where like you have to like maintain exclusivity because like of the way that they have like scheduling done where, you know, if they're recording something like in another 9 months, like you can't pick up another gig. So like you're very limited on what you can even pick up. So as an actor, yes, you're getting a lot of capital up front, but see, this is what I don't get. Like, this is where education among people like you guys with freelancer finance, they should be reaching out to guys like you saying, look, we need to create a source of income for those lean times, right? So that this way you have guaranteed money. So if you get this huge upfront capital, take that, put it into certain assets that are going to result in you actually being able to maintain your existence until you get the next big job. And yeah, it's just really like I'm fascinated by the industry and how each player is doing their own thing. And I've come to the conclusion, and I don't know, maybe you guys could confirm it or debunk it, but I think the actors are going to win, but they're all going to lose. Let me tell you this, the theory behind that. They will get everything that they want in their asks with maybe the last one, which is the residuals, like a lot less like done. But a lot of these streamers are now going to be cutting back on production. And so what's going to happen is, you know, last couple of years, there was just production everywhere. Everyone was just buying up content. Everyone was just making movies. Everyone's just making TV shows, whether or not they were hits, whether or not something that was like even like broad appeal. And instead, if it was just very niche, people were still greenlighting it. So I think in the future, the streamers and even like the production studios are going to be a lot more like tame with expenses, and they're going to probably cut down a lot. So the number of actors, you know, yes, the actors that will get a job will do better because they'll be able to get better pay and better insurance and all that stuff. But on the other hand, there may not be as much work as there was previously. What are you guys
describing? What you're describing is a wealth transfer.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I mean, it's essentially that the internet killed the cable TV model. You know, there's a bunch of channels like Time Warner Classics that nobody watched those channels, or like Hallmark Channel. Nobody watched it.
Lifetime, all that stuff.
Or Lifetime. But out of your, say, $120 a month, they got $1 for every subscriber. So they'd make $100 million for literally nobody watching it. And they would greenlight and make new content. Now that went away and it's all a la carte, there's literally no income for these companies to stay afloat. So their entire business model went away, and all that money then goes. I mean, something like $4 out of everybody's cable TV thing went to ESPN. Like, think about how much money.
That's true.
Let me interrupt you guys for 1 second.
Whether you watch or not, you know what I'm saying?
No. So I'm going to address something in the comment section. Okay.
Here we go.
That's very. No, it's very.
Here we go.
Here we go, Chris. Talk your shit.
It's,
Here we go.
It has to be brought up because someone just said, stop talking about this stuff. Only talk about stocks. And let me explain to you. The research that I'm doing behind Disney actually relates to everything that we just had this conversation about. When you're doing due diligence,
don't worry, we already blocked that person. You don't have to say anything.
Yeah, it's not just about like, oh my God, like we're going to talk about the stocks and the numbers going up and down. No, you have to follow industry trends. One of the reasons why we've actually been able to outperform, like me, Vitaly, and some of these guys, is because we follow the industry trends before the people on CNBC talk about it. So yeah, some of our conversations are very like blah. But dude, in terms of
it's not blah, because real research is on the ground research. Okay?
Yeah.
And the people who don't understand that will never outperform and get alpha from the market. They just won't.
Yeah.
Because they think they're buying a ticker and not a company. So you need to actually wear the Oculus to know that Meta was going to do something. You need to know Disney, what kind of programs they have, if they suck or if they're good. All of these things we have to test out and see if we agree with the thesis, which is larger because it's the company we're investing in.
Yeah.
And sometimes we forget that because we're just buying options now. So
no, and the thing is, like, all of this stuff, believe it or not, relates to the point where you can make a more informed decision on whether or not you want to buy a company or not, right? Because if the industry is going a certain way, like, think about it. If you're investing in this conversation that we just had is relevant to if you're investing in Netflix, if you're investing Paramount, you're investing in Disney, you're investing in any sort of content creation.
Even in Meta.
Not only that, but it even goes further, because
any media company,
Google, Apple, you know, all of them, Comcast, all of them have media arms now. So if we don't have this conversation and we're just like, yeah, I think Meta's a good company. Oh yeah, I think Apple is a good company. You're not going to figure out why they're good companies and what the valuation should be, because you're not even trying to follow the industry trend. So I'm going to get off my high horse and just pretty much just address that. Sorry.
No, but we've heard that comment several times to varying degrees, and it's also like, if you want to just get the straight news fact, just go on CNBC and watch what those guys say about the numbers and the earnings report. It's not about that. There's also a level of like, this is what people that invest in companies talk about and how they talk about when they get together. Sometimes it's not always about that. Like, this is part of the reason why, like, I make a push for like health and fitness, because it's not just all about that. It's about your entire life. And so if people don't want to listen to that stuff or take the good with the bad, then I don't know what to say, you know.
So I do want to add to everything you said, Chris, that I don't think the actors are going to lose in terms of even the bigger scale. Meaning, yes, they're fighting for their rights and they're fighting for residuals. And what happened was, we got to remember that the cinema industry, the actual industry, is 100 years old, right? Since people started making movies. In the beginning, I don't know if you remember, all the actors were screwed. They were under certain contracts. Whatever they made, the movies they made, no matter how much money they made, they had a certain pay. It was like a job, right? Eventually, they broke out of that. It took a long time, and they started to negotiate, just like anybody else. They formed unions. They started to negotiate. So now we're back into where the internet told them, hey, we make no money on the internet. But that's only the last 15 years. I don't know, how let's say 20 years even. So I think as this industry matures, the same things will happen. The actors will get back these residuals, because you need Tom Cruise. Okay, Tom Cruise doesn't need you anymore. You need Tom Cruise.
I'll push back on that. I want to play this.
I didn't finish. So hold on. So these actors like Ryan Cranston, who are fighting for all the actors, you need those guys. So that happens. They will all win because those guys are fighting together. That's why they'll win, because they have powerful actors now fighting alongside them. So they will get the rules changed eventually. But it's only at the beginning. We still have maybe 10, 20 years before all of this comes back and residuals are back. But in the meantime, a lot of actors will suffer. So I do think that's going to happen.
Yeah, can you play this? Speaking of Bryan Cranston, this is what he said about AI.
Ironic that we are all gathered here today in unity in front of an entity that is run by Disney. And now we've got a message for Mr. Iger.
That's why I brought him up, because
I know, sir,
video.
that you look through things through a different lens. We don't expect you to understand who we are, but we ask you to hear us, and beyond that, to listen to us when we tell you we will not be having our jobs taken away and giving to robots. We will not have you take away our right to work and earn a decent living. And lastly, and most importantly, we will not allow you to take away our dignity.
So I wanted to share that because it sounds really good.
Looks like he was on meth.
Yeah. It sounds really good, and it's a great public display, but they've already lost. Like, I'm sorry. Like they
didn't lose anything.
They're going. I didn't finish this time.
Yeah.
So
okay, go ahead, finish.
Yeah. So
that's what my girl used to tell me.
I'm gonna let you finish, but so they'll make interim deals.
You have no girl. Let's face it.
They'll make their interim deals to keep the company afloat and appease things, but behind the scenes they are working to absolutely replace all these people. AI is going to replace these people. They already have the amount of like motion capture and data that they have and technology that they have to create performances, which, like you saw, like an avatar. I mean, they're going eventually. That's what this is going to become. It's going to become the cheapest thing. They'll shoot it the way that they do, like the Star Wars, the sets where everything is all built in 3D. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where this is going. And
Carlos, I think you have very little respect for the performance of actors if you're saying that just because AI now exists, that the performance will be exactly replaced. It's not going to work that way, and it's not going to work that way that fast. It's going to take 20 plus years for that to occur.
Bryan Cranston's not fighting for himself. He's always going to work. He's fighting for like the day players, the people who do commercials, AT&T commercials, the people that do that are extras in the background, the guys that get killed on the war sets. That's who he's fighting for. All those
guys have already been replaced.
All those people are going to be replaced. And so you'll have your Tom Cruises, but even Tom Cruise and Bryan Cranston will not really have to work. They will 3D map their face and they'll do.
When you mean not really have to work, what are you saying? Are you saying that like a mainstream actor is not going to get the type of gigs they're getting in the next 10 years? Is that what you're saying?
You mean me?
Yeah. Like, do you think movies won't have like a Matt Damon or something? Because
of course they will. Of course they will.
So then,
no, of course they will, but that's not who he's fighting for. He's not fighting for the Hollywood actors that make millions on TV shows. He's fighting for the underlying support of the other actors, the extras, those people that will probably never be famous, right? That do short films and don't make that much money anyway, who actually need the SAG day rate to do their little gigs and work bartending things on the side. All those people are being replaced by AI.
That had nothing to do with AI, by the way. Those people were replaced long ago. The people in all those armies you guys saw for the last 20 years, that was copy and paste for 20 years. Had nothing to do with AI. So all of those people, you're right.
CG. But like, think about what those movies.
No, it's not. It's actually me dressed up as a uniform soldier, then changing my clothes and going.
So you both agree that they're already dead then?
No, but that's been dead for so long because you're not going to hire thousands of people like they did in Ben-Hur.
Then what's Bryan arguing for? What's his point?
What Bryan is trying to argue for is for the jobs that they still require, like what they have, like the non-speaking roles. They'll have people that fill out, like the people in the foreground. So if you have like a war movie or something like that, the people in the distance are usually CG, but you'll still have some people, the medics, the people walking around. Those people are never going to be famous, but they deserve like a living wage is what he's fighting for. And those people do get residuals, at least as it is now. They do get residuals for their roles in movies. And it's not like you're not going to retire off of this stuff, but it's a somewhat decent way to make a living. All those people are going to go away. And
here's the thought that might blow your mind. Imagine right now you got Morgan Freeman, right? One of the most iconic voices that you could ever have, right? He's probably makes so much money because of the voice and like the brand recognition around his voice. Imagine right now he wants to leave his voice as a license, right?
Yeah.
So that his future generations can monetize it. Do you think that would be allowed, where you could say the likeness of Morgan Freeman's voice can be used to dictate commercials into the future in perpetuity, and his kids would end up, his kids will end up getting the money for it? Like,
they already do that. It's what you see with those deep fakes. Like, have you seen those deep fakes that have been popping up on Twitter where people, it's completely AI generated. It looks just like Morgan Freeman, and it has enough samples of his voice where they can make him say anything. It's essentially that, but on a Hollywood scale, where it will be indistinguishable from real life. I mean, if you see even some of the demos that NVIDIA puts out of some of their like realistic and like ray tracing engines, it's indistinguishable from real life. So what costs less or what costs more to actually blow up a building? Like Terminator 2, they actually blew up a building. You won't have to do any of that.
Yeah,
do it all.
Did you guys watch the latest Indiana Jones? So. It was Harrison Ford, young, but he acted. He did all the performances.
Yeah.
And then they spent like 2 years making him young. Okay. But this is not a simple process what Carlos is talking about, even now. So this is going to play out 5, 10, 20 years where it's going to be where you can do this in maybe real time. That's what we're talking about here, right? If it's real time or it takes 7 days instead of 2 years to make Harrison Ford young, then that'll happen. But right now, that isn't the issue. Right now, they're still hiring people like Harrison Ford and other actors, even the B-movie actors, and they want them in there because they get their performances, okay? Even Avatar, James Cameron spends all this time. Why? He has 3D models at the end of the day, but he wants the performances of the actors. That's what you're missing here. At the end of the day, you want the performances. And maybe at one point, AI will be as good to give these performances, but I think that is so far away that me and you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, I work in post-production, dude, and I work at some of these companies.
Oh, I don't work in the film industry? You work in post-production.
I do. I work in post-production where that step actually takes place. and I know the people that do these things, and so I have a pretty good idea of what's possible and what's not. Even like things that you would not think are 3D or CG are.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And to so me, the idea that
I'm not arguing that the tools are being used. I'm arguing that these are complicated tools.
You make it seem like it's this.
Well, okay, so I shoot a show that should be in 3D. Okay, so like I shoot a show that should be in 3D, but it's easier for them to hire me and a couple of people to go make the show because they just don't want to spend the time in post to do it. They'd rather just go do it, do a green screen or do some sort of a backdrop, film at some location or studio, even though they can do this already almost in the computer, honestly.
Yeah, but no one's saying that every production is going that way overnight, but it's the trend. It's the trend.
Okay, so 20 years from now.
It's the trend of the way that it's going. It's not 20 years from now.
So
but it's the trend going, and as it becomes used, it gets cheaper.
I'm just going to double back real quick. One of the reasons why I brought this up, of course, is from a monetization standpoint for all these studios, right? Here's a trend that that's I don't know it really is public that published out there, but it's something that I found during my due diligence. All of these streaming services are actually removing a fuck ton of content from their libraries. Why? Because they realize that they're paying all this licensing fees and not getting anything because most people are not even watching these shows or watching these movies. And so right now, if you have Netflix and you have this giant, massive content library, yes, initially there was this push to, broaden it out as much as possible. But now they realize that why am I licensing IP that I don't need? And so now all of them are like trimming it back. And that's happening across the board, including Disney. And that's actually one of the main cash drivers, I think, in the future that you're going to see a lot of margin improvement because now instead of licensing it out, there's actually going to be a lot less like content on there. The other thing is, and this is the thing that's probably going to blow people's mind from a monetization standpoint. If you think about what happened with COVID the last 2 years, you had all this money being spent on content, right? Whether it was movies, TV shows, blah, blah, and it all went directly to streaming, right? What does that mean? That means that from a monetization standpoint, that's a shitty ROI because all you're doing is literally just using the growth in user numbers as your baseline. Whereas the traditional model that I think is going to start moving in is you've got this high budget movie now. You're going to take it, you're going to put it into the theaters. So you're going to capture the revenue from box office there. And now, instead of putting it directly on streaming again, you're going to resell the product on Amazon Prime and Google TV and Apple and everything else. So you're going to monetize it that way. And then eventually, you're going to put it into the streaming catalog that you have, and then eventually move it off the streaming catalog. So that this way now, if you really want to see it, you have to go pay for it. I think this is very important because think about $200 million production and you're getting nothing but just that subscription. Whereas now with the movie theaters open again and like a lot of push to it, it's almost like the $200 million initial investment can result in almost like $1 billion of proceeds, right? Gross from the movie theaters. Of course, you're not going to see all of it. You're going to have to do share with other entities to get it done. But it's crazy that no one is factoring this in to the future growth models when it comes to Disney. So if you're looking back to the last 2 years and you're saying, oh, Disney's been operating cash flow negative. Well, yeah, because they've been concentrating on their stupid fucking Disney Plus platform. That's literally now it's generating free cash flow, but basically they sacrificed all that money just to get content on the streaming platform so that people could join the streaming platform.
Yeah, but that's a smart move by them. That's actually a smart move to invest in the future because who's going to own streaming? Netflix, we know, owns it. Amazon probably has a good chance to be in there. You need a number 3, number 4. So Disney has a great chance to be that third player or whatever, or a second player. So I think they're doing the right thing by investing in the platform.
I agree with you. But here's the thing. Now it's come to a point where there's actually some maturity. So the amount of value add is not there. So now if you spend another $200 million and you do a Disney Plus exclusive, you're not going to get that many more users on there. Yes, initially it's easier to go from 5 million to 20 million because you put on The Mandalorian, which everyone nostalgia-wise is going to subscribe for to see. But then if you want to go from 50 million to 100 million, you're not. It's going to be a much harder.
Well, I think they are. Well, tell me, how many people do they have right now? 150 million or 200 million subs?
150, I think,
No.
170, something like that.
No. So they have. Hold on.
It was
let me
more
go
than
to
50
that.
million. It was over 100 million.
It's more than 100, that's for sure.
So, and Netflix has what?
225, something like that.
So they're only 50 million or so ahead of.
No, Netflix is about
remember, there's also Hulu and ESPN. So there's.
Well, I think they own
yeah,
most of that. Disney owns most of Hulu and ESPN. So I think
yeah.
they want to sort of combine it.
Disney has
into-
157 million.
And Netflix,
Yeah.
225.
Yeah, roundabout.
I'm saying
So
that
just
that's
think
pretty
about
good.
that.
That's pretty good catching up.
That's
Amazon
really
Prime.
240.
Say it again.
Yeah.
240.
238.
How about Amazon
238.
Prime? How many actual Prime members? I know they have Amazon Prime Video, but just in general, how many Amazon Prime members?
Well, they would consider anyone that has Prime a member.
Yeah,
even if you don't use
so
it. Most people don't even know.
I'm just curious. So total members
148.6 million.
for Prime members.
Yeah.
But you know, there's also an overlap. Essentially, what they've done is they have found a way to have an a la carte, like bundling system, and they also make much more money off of the ad revenue that they did before. This is why it was such a brilliant move.
What are you talking about?
Like the cable companies, it's a brilliant move by these companies to do a streaming service, and because now, but basically at the price point that they're at, they know that most people are going to get all three of them. $4.99 here, $5.99 here. It's still going to be cheaper. But what happens is they make a ton more money on the ads because they have better data on each person and can send targeted ads to each person and sell that same ad space to everyone, a different ad, and you can't skip them. Because it's digital. So it was such a genius move to make people think in like the 2000s that like cutting the cord, you were sticking it to those people. They are making more money now than they were before.
Well, it's also targeted in a better way, by the way. So I think
Vitaly, last thoughts, and we got to move on to ENOVIX. So
sure. It's targeted in a better way. Have you ever seen like a sports game where you're watching in a different region? Those screens display for you what you're supposed to see, not for like a different region. They only do it for you.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
So when it's streaming it to your house, even on your screen,
in the background, yes,
that's for you. That is not meant for
yes.
like the guy next door or the guy in the next county. So it's kind of this is already happening, and I think this is a smarter way to do it because obviously I should be getting different ads than somebody like 3 states away. So
wait, so you guys aren't getting ads for Blue Chew on everything?
I'm getting Depends now.
I am.
Is that fine?
You don't get those Viagra ads?
All right, we got it.
I think Google knows I'm good with that.
Real quick super chat, Mr. Seymour Duck, $10. Thank you. That's why Hulu merging with Disney Plus is important. General entertainment is cheaper to produce, and I agree, can cut the big budget ones. Yeah, and that's true. Bring it back to movies.
I do want to mention one thing. Movie theaters, I think me and Carlos both, we thought during COVID it was dead. Like I thought, who's going back to a movie? Do I want to sit with all these people? I want to go back to the movies. I want to go
back to the movies too.
I saw Indiana Jones. I saw like everything. Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer. I'm going to see that. So like I want to see these movies in the theater. I don't want to see it in my house. So I think movies are back in a big way. I'm surprised.
But they also.
Guys, we actually really do got to move on. We spent 30 minutes and we got a whole Disney episode in the future that Chris, so we got to move on. ENOVIX, this guy is running 8%. You guys were saying to sell this 2 days ago. What's going on?
Well, I said take profits. I didn't say sell it. But
a lot of people were like, yeah, it's overvalued. We're getting rid of it. I'm saying, was it a bad sell or was it like, what do you think?
No, not for me.
Is the market wrong?
First of all, I sold most of it at $23. But the point is, I don't regret taking profits and paying for all my shares that I already have still.
I get it. I'm not asking in the context of you getting physical money. I'm just saying in general, is the market right? And we were kind of wrong that it wasn't overvalued.
What Amit's doing, I know Amit. What Amit is doing is looking to see if he can say, "I told you so."
No, I swear, no.
SoFi shoot to the roof.
Maybe I framed the question wrong. Forget the selling part. My question is the market right that it's actually still undervalued? Because you guys are telling me, look, they made 8 batteries.
No, the market is wrong. It is not undervalued.
It
is not undervalued, in my opinion. It is getting more overvalued today. And look, that's fine. I still have shares. Let it continue getting overvalued. That's okay.
So why? Why is it why is the market running it? That's my question. Why is it running?
They said some nice things. I think Carlos has more information, but they said some good things. They've got their Malaysia plant. They beat their numbers on the batteries they made. Instead of making 16,000, they made 22,000 batteries. And all of a sudden, they're worth $4 billion because you made 22,000 batteries. So people are estimating a very bright future without any problems in this manufacturing line. We'll see what happens.
I'll read you some of the stuff here. And then even me as an investor with a substantial, a decent amount of money invested, I'm like, this company should be $5. Like, I'll read you some of the stuff.
So the market really is giving it a premium, man.
Here's what you got.
It's a 450 price to sales, something like that.
Oh my
We made
God.
significant progress on our journey to scale. First, we produced 22,000 units, which beat our plan of 18,000 units by 25%. Now, granted, they're making little batteries, but that's still a massive beat in production. We delivered on the commitment to secure 70 million of non-dilutive local funding to support our first high-volume production line in Malaysia. That's also good news. Received a purchase order to produce BrakeFlow-enabled cells for the U.S. Army. Added 2 seasoned board members and continued to attract high-end talent from the semiconductor industry. Well, that's all good news. I'm happy to share that ENOVIX has established engagements for smartphones with leading OEMs Xiaomi, Vivo, and Lenovo. They were one of the top 5 global and smartphone shipments. One key learning insight was the increasing popularity of flip and fold phones, which are expected to grow over 50% to 21.4 million units this year. The higher energy density we offer can allow OEMs to utilize one high capacity battery to power their large foldable screens as opposed to using 2 conventional batteries. That's also good for them.
Can I point out while you're reading all this, not one thing says, "Hey, we made this much money because we're killing it." Everything is
no. That's at the end. I'm getting to that part, and I got some thoughts on that too. Where is the part that I wanted to show? It was that screenshot that I had sent you.
The first part of the Army contract was 600,000. It's worth $4 billion.
It was the part. Hold on. Here it is.
Maybe it's retail or something, because people love this stock on Twitter.
Oh yeah. I think it's a great company, but TJ Rogers is the man. This is why we're investing, because TJ Rogers is the man, and he's gonna make us whole, baby. That's what I think. But it's gonna take a while.
This was promising. We announced this month the general availability of our IoT and wearable cell for smartwatches, headsets, and other like Internet of Things devices. That to me is also increasingly bullish, because you would want to see that they are getting to go to emerging markets. Now for the bad news. So we go to the bad news. Our total revenue in the second quarter of 2023 was $42,000. Which is consistent entirely of product. So they're making as much as an actor at Disney.
Wait, they made revenues of
TJ Rogers
waiting tables. The market cap's $4 billion. Wow.
Well, so when I bought the shares, like at around 11 to 9, in between that range, I think it dropped, and I think they made 8,000, was it? And I spent 11,000 on the shares. I thought that was very, very funny. They made 8 grand. I spent 11 grand.
Yeah, I've got more money in this company than they made.
Yeah, actually, that's funny. The 42 grand that they made, I had more in stock than they made. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. And their cost of revenue was 14 million in the second quarter, was up from 12.2. Our non-GAAP cost of revenue was 12.6. And it was up from 11.3. But operating expenses were down 37 million from 51 million. Third quarter, they did forecast productions of approximately 36,000 units based on operational improvements. Okay, so is that a great call? Like, I'm happy for the company. Yes, they're not making a dime. They're not making any freaking money. And it's almost, I wouldn't even report it. I would just report a negative, then say I made $7,500. Like, it's an EV tax credit.
Well, on top of it, by the way, I don't know if you guys read it, but TJ Rogers released a short letter to Shorts. It was 10 pages long. I read the whole letter today. Did you guys read this?
It was ridiculous. He shouldn't have done that.
10 pages. He responded to every short. In fact, he responded to Twitter followers. He's like, this Twitter follower has 2,600 followers. I'm like, what? Why are you responding to someone with 2,600 followers? Like that?
That's some goat shit, bro. That's amazing.
So
but why
is it really? Is it really? I don't think so.
I like that. If Alex Karp was doing that, I like that shit.
That's an incredible waste of time for a company that prides itself on efficiency.
If you're on the toilet and you're writing
dude, this guy
he didn't write that shit up.
This guy is a multi-billionaire. He does not need to respond for a tiny battery company for every short seller. But
doesn't that make it seem more important that he's actually?
No, it actually makes it worse for me. It makes it worse because it's like why are you so interested in answering every negative thing that's going on? Because when Enphase was going through a bunch of negative things, and we were there during the short reports, by the way, remember 2020, those short reports, TJ barely said anything. Okay. And because Enphase was executing, I feel like they were making money. They were starting to make money.
Making money.
So I feel like he has to fight this one harder, because he knows that they have 2 years before they actually make any actual profit. I think that's the issue.
But they're also like, and ENOVIX doesn't have like the government incentives, and that they just don't have some of those tailwinds that would help them in the way that Enphase had at that time. And Enphase just a much more obvious bet. And I think a lot of what you're seeing, like we're asking, like, why are so many people investing? Why is this thing $4 billion? Because TJ Rogers took Enphase to where it is. That's, I think, a massive part of the reason why it's getting this valuation. Because they're like, you know what? On the off chance that he does pull off what he did with Enphase, I'm not missing out. So it's like, these numbers don't even matter. And that's why I would say, why are you responding to these short sellers? Like, don't even give them the attention. Don't even validate the case. Just execute.
So the reason why I bring up this chart, based on just market cap, ENOVIX is the 7th largest battery manufacturer in the world. QuantumScape, which is another
piece of shit.
Another more dubious. I don't want to call it a piece of shit. I'll say dubious.
They have no product. Am I right? They have no product.
They don't have no product right now. They're worth about $4 billion right now. So it just goes to show that, like, you have companies that are really making money, doing everything. They're worth about 140, 100 billion. And these guys are not making anything yet. They're being valued at the $1 billion scale right now. I don't know about that. That seems a little bit sus, like.
But in what way? Think that? In what way? Like predatory?
No. It's just the expectations are too high. I think that these guys should be something like similar to this, where you got like maybe like $1 billion, maybe $2 billion in valuation makes a lot more sense. I mean, there's so many.
No, honestly, it should be $300 million company. No joke. And the only reason I bought it when it was around $1 billion or $1.5 billion, whatever I paid, TJ Rogers. That's it. So if TJ Rogers is going to invest, and he did so well for me for Enphase, and he knows what he's doing, I trust the man. It's like if he was my friend and he just made me 20x on something, and he comes to me and he says, "Hey, I need to borrow another 20 grand.
This other thing,
I got this other thing, 20 more grand. Sure, take it. I don't even give a shit because you did the other thing for me." So I'm investing in TJ. Bottom line, but in terms of the actual numbers for this company, $42,000. It's a nothing burger.
Wake me up in a year. Wake me up in a year or two. Let me see how you're doing then.
Yeah. It has a lot of potential for the future. And that's why a lot of people invest. The problem is, there's two factors to consider here. Number one is the valuation so crazy that the future profits may not materialize right away. And two, can I just wait to see if they actually are able to do what they do and be able to command a premium for it? Right now, what you're doing is you're paying a very high price from a valuation perspective for something that's still very speculative. Unfortunately, I like the company. I like the product. It looks good. The technology is supposed to be proven, but the valuation right now is a little bit high considering the risk that you're taking on.
And just remember, when me and Chris agree, it's usually right.
The other problem is there's so many companies out there right now that are on sale that, like, there's an opportunity cost that you have to consider as well, right? So that if you see something that's super undervalued, you don't want to be investing in the more speculative stuff, especially if there is a recession looming. The speculative companies will be the first ones to fold, whereas the companies that are value companies, that are much stronger companies, they'll not only survive, but they'll actually thrive because the market will have shrunk. And by the end of it, they'll be the only game in town, depending on the industry they're in. So I think right now is a good time to just high class your portfolio. And ENOVIX has been a good investment because the speculative nature of it has gone way too far beyond what it should be valued at.
Well, I want to point out, first of all, I didn't sell half of I sold half. I kept the half because they paid for the free shares. But Dennis's comment is interesting. What is the fair value for ENOVIX? I just want to bring that up and discuss that for a second. You will never get at the fair value of ENOVIX because TJ Rogers is involved.
Right, but they made $40,000. So whatever, give them whatever.
Give it a 10 multiple.
It's gonna be you're gonna
give it a 1,000 multiple. Give it a 1,000 multiple. It's
right. It's $4 million.
Give it a 20
right?
multiple.
If they made $42,000, then it's a $4 million company, and that's what it should be valued at, right?
Yeah.
So you're never going to get that. Some companies are always going to be overvalued, and maybe justifiably because TJ Rogers is involved, but at a $400 to $500 price to sales, I'm not looking to buy any more shares right now. In fact, if it keeps going higher, I might have to sell everything. Just pointing it out.
That was funny. Well, real quick, and you just
what did that say? What did that say? I missed it.
It said Lizzo showed up in a Beyonce costume.
Chris, we definitely need that shirt. That would be a good shirt.
I'm telling you.
Somebody noticed that there was some interesting put and call options. This is what I think gets to your point about people not wanting to hold the shares, but saying, "Well, I can throw a little bit and invest in it." So, some new contracts came out that expire. What was it? I was just reading this actually when we got on the call. Turns out that the call side of the option, the call contracts at the $20 strike price have a current bid of $6. If an investor wants to purchase shares of ENOVIX stock at the current level and then sell to open a call contract as a covered call, they're commuting the stock to sell at $20. Considering the call seller will also collect the premium, that would drive a total return of 35% if the stock gets called away at the July 24th. Of course, a lot of upside can be left on the table if ENOVIX is short, which is why I'm looking at the trend. Basically, they came out with a new series of options. A lot of the puts they're saying are designed that should expire worthless, and that there's more interest in options market for this than for the shares. And that to me tells it's what you're saying. There's just too much other opportunity in the market to hold shares and just play the options game on it. Because you'll collect the premium, you can invest somewhere else, and so on. So
let's not forget the short interest is like 30. Well, what did TJ say? 30%?
300%.
300% of the float. No, I think it's like 30-35% of the float, which is massive. It's like there's some people.
Every battery you buy comes with a 10 put contract.
Chris, time to buy puts.
Oh man. No, see, that's the one thing I'll never ever try to speculate on companies like this, dude. Because even if I have a thesis, that shit could go out the door. Like, think about it. Upstart. I think it's a bullshit company. I think it's garbage. But every time I look at fucking Robinhood, it's like trending as the top 10. It's up 20% on the day.
No, ENOVIX can go to $10 billion. Absolutely can go to $10 billion before it crashes back down to $1 billion. That is totally possible.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm not gonna try to speculate on speculative companies. No,
I know we're shitting on it, but I think me and Carlos, I'm not sure if Chris has any shares, but we still have shares.
So, I do. I have still have 25% of my position,
except Amit. He might not have any shares.
No, I'm in enough speculative shit already. I can't.
In what?
Get more. I mean, it's not really speculative, but I don't have the capital for ENOVIX, bro. I don't have more money to like invest. I'm tapped out.
The one thing I learned from you guys,
PayPal took all our money.
PayPal literally took my last $6 grand, $7 grand.
The one thing I learned from you guys is never sell the entire position. Take majority of it out, but leave some of it because
you learned something from Vitaly and Carlos.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at
I used to be the guy that's just like, fuck it, sell it all. You know, now I'm just like, why? Fuck it, I already made my money. The rest of that shit, let it ride. Let it do its thing, man.
Let the market pay for the gains. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm looking back at that. I'm looking back at the other stock that we invested in. This is how ridiculous the valuations. Remember Arcimoto? Arcimoto is now trading at $1.53. The market cap is $10 million, and at some point, this stock with the reverse split was worth $736. Same company, $736, and it's right now $2. So what is that? That's a 370 something percent. I mean, that's how fast these companies can run up, and a lot of that was just was meme action. Retail investors getting really excited about it.
And the thing is, that taught me a good lesson. Take some money off the table, because I did not take enough money off the table when Arcimoto ran to like $30 or $36, and I had it at $1. Okay, $1.25 or whatever it was. Yeah. Like what
you
was
were
in my
up
brain?
36x and you didn't sell?
I started to sell at 20 and started slowly DCing out up until like 9.
That's good.
But
that's good.
The thing is, no, but it doesn't make sense. Why did at 36x? What was I looking for? Like,
you were selling on the way down from $36.
Yeah, like what was I looking for? I don't understand. So my brain chemistry has been reconfigured.
How many shares did you have? How many?
I'm not going to talk about it. I had a lot of
money.
Was
it a lot or was it a little? What is a small?
It was a lot. It was a big position. It grew to a massive position.
A really big position.
These shares were $1.79 and the market cap was
I bought a lot of them at $1.70 or $1.50.
So it was nothing, and I was buying call options. So I mean,
but a lot is how much of the percentage of the portfolio?
It grew very large. It was competing with like actual real companies, and I didn't sell. It started competing. I'm not going to get into percentage, but it started competing.
Calls on it. That's
and I didn't sell it at $36.
It didn't sell when it was like $36. I'm like, sells room to run.
Absolutely ridiculous.
You still make a little bit of profit, but you do learn like these companies can get crazy just with no news, with no fucking news. That's why when that person asked in the chat, like, how do you fair value these companies? It's like, we still have arguments over what Apple's valuation should be, right? People still argue over what it should be, or Microsoft's. Like Matt Money was saying, why is Amazon at this price and why is Google at this? We're arguing over $1 trillion companies, and it's also really, really easy to value some of these like smaller companies. It's like those middle companies, the 20 to $200 billion companies. It's pretty easy, but everything on the extremes is really hard because there's just so many variables pushing it. So
yeah. All right, guys, I got a dip. So I'll leave this open. I'll close it on my phone. Real quick. I know we got 15 minutes left. We said ZUCKS.
No. Can Can you put the David comment on there before anything? The super chat.
Oh,
the super chat. Because this way you can't put it on again. There you go.
I think on days you got to dip. We need control over the stream. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You can't pass over a
That's the
host.
problem with StreamYard. I can't, bro. I wish I on the final.
We have to. I'll tell you what. The little bit of time that Apple let us stream with Chris's that app Melon thing, it was pretty good. And you could do that. Everybody could chime in and click the chat. We could
By the way, you know that now StreamYard enables it so that you can actually post in the chat. Like I just put "Hey everyone" and actually went through. Did you notice?
Where did you
like
put
we
that?
can actually. Yeah, look at the bottom right. You can see it. Like
No,
now.
Okay, wait, guys, I really got to go. How about this? Why don't we save this for tomorrow? Because you got to talk about ZUCKS for the next 15 minutes because that was big. So we'll just I'll screenshot this, David. We'll answer this tomorrow. I'll make sure to make a note of it.
Have any thoughts on quantum computer play?
This is a bigger question.
I'll have
all right, Vitaly and Chris, have fun shitting on Carlos for not investing. I'm sorry, Carlos. I gotta leave you here.
I don't feel.
Nah, there's nothing to show anymore.
Bye, guys. See you tomorrow.
All right. Whoa, I'm in the left, baby.
Oh man. hey, Chris. How's it going?
All right, who wants to start off? Chris, you wanna start?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm not gonna say I told you so, but sometimes
Can I say it then?
I knew you were gonna say it. So
all right,
you know, when it comes down to companies like Meta, you got to look at that leadership, man. The leadership sets the tone for the rest of the company, and it's not like Zuck and the team weren't telling you guys like, look, our goal for 2023 is going to be just chopping heads, and we are just going to go back to monetizing
decapitating
the
heads.
shit. They literally just told, like, Brad Gerstner's letter was like right after that. Zuck said, you know what? If there's no Meta, there's no metaverse. Screw this shit. Let's start going. And you remember all the DD that we posted in the Freelancer Finance Discord, where people were calling that TikTok was supposedly going to take over and everything else. I'm just like, come on, man. Like, you're talking about a company that has 3 billion captive fucking users. You know, I'm sure that Zuck can figure out a way to monetize it.
3.88 use it at least once a month, right? I think that's their stat, the monthly active MAU or whatever it is. And on a daily, what was it? I forget. Was it 2 or 3 billion? I forgot. I was looking at the chart, actually. I was trying to listen to the call. But it's some crazy numbers.
It's Meta is a cash flow machine, by the way. Like, you look at some of these big tech companies, they literally have printing presses, the way that they operate. Google is the same exact thing. Google right now has a license to print money. They have their ads and service, search business, which literally costs them nothing at this point to run it, yet it's all 100% cash flow coming in. On top of that, now you have cloud computing, which is profitable and growing at a breakneck pace, keeping up with the likes of Azure. And like I said, it's just these are cash flow companies. The only reason why these companies actually don't show even more growth or in terms of like cash flow is because they make all sorts of side bets. Right? Like Meta with the metaverse made all these side bets. If you look at Google, Google does fucking every side bet you can imagine. Quantum computing, fucking Waymo with the self-driving cars, the internet, like the satellite internet. They even invested in fucking space mining.
So like, can I point out before we leave Meta? Yes, we know Google is still a great play. Amazon, we didn't even talk about Amazon. It's still such an amazing company to invest in. But hold on. Someone posted in our Discord here. And if you guys aren't part of the Discord, please join it. We have a Discord, Freelancer Finance.
You won't be able to share.
I can't share it, but I'm going to just we have the chart that somebody, let me see who posted it just to give him some credit. Mr. Seymour Duck. Thank you, Mr. Seymour Duck. Meta Q2 forward year 23 income statement, and it shows the breakout. You know that green, blue, little squiggly things everywhere, right? The red line. So the one thing I want to point out, okay, net profit 7.8 billion, which is great, of course, but they made 32 billion dollars in revenue. I still think, if we're going to discuss this for a second, R&D is almost $10 billion still. That's kind of crazy. That's a quarter.
Yeah.
That's 29% of their revenue is R&D. So what do you guys think about that? Because that's the one thing that even sticks to me. Like, you can scale that back a bit and really just juice up those numbers even more.
Now you need it. You need it with AI. Like the thing is,
one of the arms race.
Right. Yeah. One of the biggest.
But hold on, Google does not spend 29% of their capex on R&D. They don't do that. So what do you?
Right, but it's that investment that's keeping them ahead. Like, think about it this way: if Meta did not spend so much in AI research, the changes that Apple made to their policies would have tanked Meta to the umpteenth degree. They were able to actually get around Apple and do targeted advertising despite all the bullshit that Apple put in front of them. So the thing is, like,
while Snapchat suffered because they couldn't do what Meta did.
Right, because they didn't have the capital to do it, and they didn't put in the money to research it. So
well,
I think a lot of
have the money, poor guys. Everything that they do gets copied, and then they
no. But I was thinking about, like, they can scale it back $1 billion or $2 billion. But I think you're right, because, like, if they did not have that and they did not have that spend, like a third of their company, Apple might have killed them much worse than we estimated was happening back then. You know?
Yep. And the thing is, like, with AI, it's not just costing them in terms of like GPUs and hardware and capital that you need to do it, but you also have to like pay pretty significantly to like people who are really good in their fields, right? Like, so if you have AI researchers and stuff, they know you're literally competing against Google, you're competing against Microsoft, you're competing. It's a very limited talent pool that's being competed by some of the biggest companies on the planet. So they have to be very, very judicious with their expenses, but at the same time, they know that this is a future driver. The one thing that Meta that doesn't have that the other guys do, that I think in the future Meta might want to do, is figure out how to do excess data center capacity, and that they could end up selling it. Like,
we keep talking about that. Yes, the AWS of AI.
Right. And so that's the thing that Google has done right now and is successfully growing. Like, I think there was a chart, 7 out of every 10 AI startups right now are built on Google AI cloud infrastructure. Just that's fucking mind numbing. That's crazy.
That is a pretty crazy stat. AI, just AI startups.
Yep. They're all built on top of Google, man. 7 out of 10. That's nuts.
Well, the one thing I do want to look at the stats for, because like if you asked anybody 5 years ago, like, look, my background's engineering. If you asked me, hey, 5 years ago, do you want to work at Meta? I'd be like, no. Oh, Facebook. I'm like, no, of course not. It's like, it's for geezers, right? Facebook is for geezers, minus Instagram, let's say. But now I think with this whole AI play that they're doing with the metaverse, with Threads, I think they're actually like growing, and engineers want to be a part of it. But I do want to, I don't know if there's any engineers in the audience who actually want to chime in, but I'm sure there are a lot more people who want to go there now than they did 5 years ago. And I'm curious on those actual engineers.
Actually, we're trying to, there's a guy that I've been texting with on Twitter, trying to get him to come on. That's in that same sort of situation. I think he used to work there. But it's like,
where's he now?
I have to go back and check. But it's like there's like what's that? It's a statute of limitations in terms of how long after you work at the company you're allowed to talk. A lot of these guys want to stay private. I don't know if they fear getting killed, but you know.
Well, they all sign massive NDAs, and they definitely want to be sued. You know, like,
exactly.
I totally get that.
Exactly. So.
Meta, I mean, well, Supreme Bag Holder, I don't know if I can trust you. You're definitely a Meta bull. Meta is a supreme place if you care about AI open source. Well, actually, that's true. Llama is a massive open source right now. So if you're doing anything with open source and you're using their LLM, yes, Meta is the one in charge of this. So yes, so Chris, congratulations. That's all. That's in order. Supreme Bag Holder and anybody else?
I will say this. I regret selling my calls.
I sold the calls too early too. Well, actually,
I have stock.
I kept some, by the way. I do have a few.
I don't have any. I have stock, but I don't have. Because I was like, oh, how much more can it run? I don't want my calls to fucking decay. Right. And like, I was using too much logic. But that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
It's
well,
okay.
no, I don't think anybody knew. See, the thing is, like with great leadership, Mark is a great leader, even if you hate him. And Carlos, at least you could admit there's massive turnaround, because Mark is the guy who did the turnaround. He decided what would happen, and he did it, and he executed. So in terms of just leadership, I mean, Mark has totally killed it. It's kind of crazy.
Well, you guys my take on Mark is a little bit different. I mean, what Mark is benefiting from. What Mark is benefiting from is a favorable sort of legislative environment, because he's basically working with governments in a way that they want. So he's got that sort of level of protection where he'll give governments access to information that they would normally not be able to get on their own. So he's going to be allowed to continue to expand his operations as long as that's the case. But again, it's like I say, there have been real damage done from the products and services over the last couple of years, specifically with our elections and around COVID. And so it's fine to be happy. And like I said, the stock price is different from the company. And I just keep asking myself, what does the world look like if that becomes the most successful company in the world? And I think we've seen, as they've gotten more successful, that sort of the division, the social discourse has gotten worse. And so, yeah, there's money to be made in these companies, but I don't necessarily think that means they're doing good, is all I'm saying.
So Twitter is great discourse. I'm just curious. That's the great discourse place?
Well, it's even discourse. You get to hear.
That's the place where no one shits on anybody. Twitter.
It's not about whether you're shitting on someone, because you can shit on someone on any platform. It's just more about the availability of voices and it's the lack of censorship. It's really just the lack of censorship. That's the first step that governments take. Is, it's like did you watch the Robert Kennedy when he was that thing we were joking about the other day when Wasserman Schultz tried to censor him at a censorship committee? He was talking about how the government with I don't know if it was just Meta or if it was Meta and Google, but they invented a word called malinformation. It's not misinformation. It's called malinformation. And malinformation is speech that is true, but it goes against what the government narrative is. And they were able to write this into law, and using that, they were able to censor him. That's the sort of things that I do think that we should be worried about in leaving the world, even the digital world, a better place than when we got it. Coming from our Gen X, where we literally it was the Wild West. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm not arguing that the company's not doing well.
Can you share my screen if you're still on? I don't know.
Where is he? He's at Oppenheimer right now.
He's traveling to Oppenheimer. I'm hoping that he's still on the stream so he can actually share it.
But he can if he's
whatever. No, I mean. So basically, it's this video that's on Twitter of people lining up to get their eyeballs scanned by WorldCoin.
Oh my god!
Yeah, dude, it's like around the block and through the dude, I can't believe. And basically, you get this World
crazy
ID card, and I'm just like, wait, you guys don't give a shit about your privacy, your fucking identity, that you're going to some company that you don't even know, and you're like willing to give your you're giving them your biometric data. Like they're making a database of all the biometrics of all the people and tying into your finances. And it's like, I was having this conversation with that other buddy of mine, because we were talking about the regional banks, that same guy. And it's like, what you're basically doing is you don't have to censor people at all if you just have the ability to shut them off at some point. This is where it's going. And this is I think the end result where it's going. And the moves are really incremental, but by the time you realize it, it's a wrap. But it's kind of what I'm seeing.
Supreme Bag Holder's comment is exactly my point. What he just said. I think he deleted it. Oh no,
privacy is useless
unless it becomes inconvenient for me. And that's the whole point. That's what Einstein warned about, right? That what is it?
I just want to point out, by the way, I know,
right?
Listen, I know you think Twitter is the free speech platform, but the problem is it depends on the laws of the land. So if you use Twitter in America, maybe it is that. And maybe it won't be, because at the end of the day, Elon is beholden to the U.S. government, probably more than anybody, because he depends on all their contracts. So what happens when Twitter goes to China or to another country? Elon has to follow those rules. He has to limit based on those rules what happens. The same thing with all these companies, by the way. Apple has to do the same thing. Google has to do the same thing. They have to follow the laws of the land.
Yeah, but I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is that the terms of service of the social media companies are more powerful than the Constitution, because they can say, like people, you saw it even on Threads the first week. People would post something, say about Hunter Biden or whatever, and they would get censored. You cannot post this argument and have these conversations on this platform. And the things that they would say is, well, if you don't like the platform, this is our terms of service. You have to leave. Even on Google, when the pandemic was happening, we couldn't talk about it even on our channel.
I agree. On YouTube, yeah.
And it was affecting our investments, but we had to use different terms, or we can't even talk about.
We called it Cootie 19.
We called it Cootie 19, and we had to talk about the green bean and made a shirt, because you can't say these things, and that's my point. Like, it's not
but okay, so I get your point.
Talk about those things.
But these are private companies, and we have to change the laws then, that these private companies have to obey the 10 commandments of the world then. But until that happens, these are private companies that have the right to do that. Just like if you started a private company, for example, I'll give you a thing that we're related to. We own a piece of real estate. I'm sure you've heard it before. And if my tenants, if they don't pay and I need to evict them, right? That's what I do. I go kick out people who need a place to live, because I need them out, so then someone else can move in to pay me. So the point is like, those are the rules.
Yeah, but that's not.
We live by certain rules.
That's a false equivalent. The reason why
I'm just saying at that point you don't want that to happen. You don't need those people to stay there because you would be hurt in that transaction.
But the difference is that person is breaking a contract. The contract was, I'm going to pay you money every month for the right to 30 days in this place, and they've broken a contract. And you have every right to exercise your end of the contract, which was stipulated before you entered into the contract to begin with. You know what I'm saying? The bottom line is it's all about what you incentivize, and companies that are primarily ad based are not incentivized to work on the behalf of the users, but to work on the behalf of the advertisers. So if an advertiser says, I don't want this sort of speech, or I don't want my ads next to this sort of speech, the host company is going to be like, well, we're just going to get rid of all that speech, because what's bringing in the money is the advertisers. This is the whole point of the $8 blue check system, is to, if everybody's subscribed, 95% of people subscribe and they have $8 a month, then if a company comes by and says, hey, I don't want my ad next to that, they would say, okay, then don't advertise on our platform, because we're not dependent on that money. We're the users of the platform are actually supporting us. And that's what I think is,
so you even know Twitter needs ad dollars. They're not going to get enough blue check marks. They're going to need the ad dollars.
Well, in the interim, but the idea is to have a greater and greater portion of it subsidized by the end user. And the idea, in order to incentivize that, is to pass off all the ad revenue to the creators to bring more creators on. What is
happening?
That's Amit somehow. Or that's Amit's mom.
Amit's mom is joining the stream.
Mom's
okay, it's 8 o'clock, guys. So unless you want to keep going on this.
Okay. There's one thing I just wanted to show you guys.
What is this, Chris? All right, this podcast got good all of a sudden.
Where are we right now?
This is the Mykonos, bro. That was a gift to you guys, man.
Nice.
You sticking it out with us, bro.
That's what Meta Money got me.
that is the Mykonos. Okay,
so that's the prize. That's what awaits.
Nah, dude, I already made my life choices. I'm cool with my wife. You know, like I love my wife. So, but the thing is, like, God, if I knew the shit that I knew right now with investing when I was in my early 20s, that would have been me at the fucking Mykonos partying with those tents, bro.
You'd have been in that video. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Chris. We'll have enough money to freeze our brains one day and transplant.
For sure. That is the end game.
Dude, I've seen that video about like 30 times. I'm just like, I'm reevaluating my life.
Some of that was in the bathroom, fellas. Okay.
I'd pay $10 to see your bookmarks, bro.
Oh yeah, if you show your bookmarks, I'll sign up to your Patreon. Whoa! Everybody's gone. What happened?
I was like, wow.
I did not do that. I think that's
that was Amit's fucking around.
I'm gonna be couch surfing tonight, bro. I know.
Yeah, dude, you're about to be single, man.
That is fucked up. Did he just kill him?
I don't know. No, that's fucking what's his name? That is Amit killing the stream. I'm pretty sure. Peace.